Breaking tonight, new concerns that the American people are being endangered, thanks to an administration hell-bent on not offending anyone. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Tonight, we've learned that the Obama administration has been deliberately ignoring evidence related to whether those seeking entry into this country mean to do Americans harm out of a desire to be politically correct. As a result, immigrants like the female terrorist in San Bernardino, whose online postings made very clear she was an Islamic extremist, have been getting a free pass into the U.S., despite social media postings that make very clear they are potential killers. Today, President Obama went to the Pentagon to discuss efforts to defeat ISIS. Afterwards, he spoke but offered few, if any, new details. One thing he notably did not discuss was the news reports that his administration has been deliberately ignoring the social media accounts of foreigners who apply for an entry visa into the United States. Deliberately, I say. Something American employers do with job applicants on a regular basis. But those charged with protecting us apparently decided this is not a good idea. The Homeland Security Department was reportedly worried about the optics of doing so, fearing it might look bad to check up on a foreigner's public profile, that it might anger some civil rights groups and create bad PR. This raises serious questions, considering that the female terrorist who murdered 14 Americans this month made her own radical views very clear online. In fairness to the administration, we have learned that she posted those under a pseudonym, and she kept her pages private. They were not available for public consumption. But how many others have slipped through the cracks, whose online behavior might have kept them out of this country if only we had bothered to look? Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge reports tonight from Washington. Catherine?
Megyn, tonight a Homeland Security official telling Fox News that Tashfeen Malik also used privacy settings to block content, and the official claimed there was no written policy against social media screening on visa applications, but it was only used when negative information came up.
It is routine for our consular officers to be able to examine social media presence when they feel it can round out and put a little bit more flesh on the bone of the information.
I think that the Department of Homeland Security has pushed back against those.
Malik exchanged messages about martyrdom and jihad with her future American husband and conspirator Saeed Farouk even before entering the United States last year, as an internal debate raged within the Homeland Security Department. With ABC News first to report, it came to a head in the spring of 2014 when Immigration and Customs officials pressed Secretary Johnson's deputies to allow social media screening on a regular basis. Contacted by Fox News, Johnson's spokesperson said the screening strategy has since expanded, quote, over the last year, the department initiated 3 pilot programs to specifically incorporate appropriate social media review into its vetting of applicants. As a former member of the Homeland Security Advisory Council said, it only makes sense to use it, and government officials should stop throwing up investigative blocks.
We have the ability and capability to monitor social media to one extent or another. I mean, at the end of the day, it's sort of like in the 80s, it would be saying basically the government can't watch TV, because that's the equivalent of social media for ISIS and how it spreads its narrative and spreads its message.
Separately, later this week, Secretary Johnson is expected to roll out an updated advisory system that reflects the high-risk environment where the threats are not specific, like we saw in California and Paris. Megyn.
Catherine, thank you. Joining me now with more, Brad Thor, a former member of the Homeland Security Department's Analytic Red Cell Unit and also best-selling author of the book Code of Conduct. Brad, thank you for being here. So they have the ability to do it. They choose not to because they don't want to offend anybody.
You know, there's no constitutional right to a visa, and there are no civil liberties issues with this. When you post on social media, it's public, even if you do throw up these privacy walls like this person was doing. I mean, Megyn, it is easier for a terrorist to get a visa than for a group with Tea Party or Patriot in their name to get a 501c3 classification from the IRS. This is ridiculous.
They're worried, they say, about 3 things. Bad PR, civil rights organizations, and civil liberties organizations giving them pushback. The question is, are they worried about Americans who are going to get killed by radical extremists who want to murder us?
Bingo. That's the issue here. We have a president, not a publicist, and he needs to act like one. And as far as civil liberties groups or civil rights groups, they can all jump right in the lake because they do not have any leg to stand on here. If you are a foreign national applying for a visa to come to this country, you are not afforded the protections of civil liberties and civil rights protections that American citizens
You're
or those who
asking
are
for a
physically in the
privilege.
country.
You're asking for a special privilege.
You don't get it. And by the way, this is a great tool. And I understand that Catherine is kind of moving this story forward with this issue about, well, it wasn't a written policy. Yet they were fighting about it internally at the Department of Homeland Security. This is shocking. It is shocking that you would not go to social media, particularly when DHS has been rabid since 2011 about looking for any anti-government talk on social media by Americans. This is a big issue. 2009, even when Janet Napolitano headed the DHS, she put out a white paper saying that we had to watch out for veterans, people with Gadsden flags in the back of their trucks, pro-lifers, pro-gun people as being potential right-wing extremists and terrorists. So when Obama
Think they're looking at their social media?
All the time. When the Obama administration wants to look for stuff, they find it, they even spin it. So this is a bunch of malarkey. And why is he so much more concerned over people applying for visas than protecting American citizens?
Okay, but here's what their other defense is. The numbers are too big. Last year, we had 10 million people come into the country on visas. Some 40,000 of those were on these K-1 marriage visas. So they don't have the time. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the money to have somebody sitting there doing the Facebook search, private, how do I get around that, and so on.
You got two choices. Number one, if you're dealing with people in a specific age group, let's say 18 to 34, they've all got social media accounts. Part of getting your visa should be opening up those accounts, turning over your passwords. Employers ask people for this a lot, and we've got over a third of the employers in this country that look at social media. And the other thing is if we've got that many people applying for visas that we can't check them, woo, let's dial it down and let's not process so many darn visas. This is what Trump was talking about. Let's put a pause until we can work out these problems, because protecting Americans is more important than giving visas to foreign nationals.
You know what else you could do? You could strike a deal. You could get Facebook to change its policies such that when you sign up for a Facebook account, you check a box saying, if I decide to immigrate into the United States, I agree to make all of my private profiles public and subject to review. And then the government doesn't have to do anything. You apply, you've already agreed to make it public. They can take a look at it. It's done. It's easy. And if you don't check the box, you got a problem.
There's just one problem with that idea, Megyn. It makes too much sense. You'll never get it past this administration.
Brad, thank you.
You're welcome.